Hello, my name is Anthony Poon, and on behalf of my co-authors, I will be presenting our work on the computer-mediated peer support needs of home care workers. Home care workers, or HCWs, are essential healthcare workers that provide long-term care inside of patients' own homes. In the United States and in New York City, patients increasingly prefer to receive services at home rather than at a long-term care facility, and this makes HCWs one of the fastest-growing professions in the US. However, these workers are often low-wage, older women who are ethnic minorities or immigrants. And as they are low in the healthcare hierarchy and are physically isolated from their peers, coworkers, and other support structures, HCWs often feel unsupported and left to face the challenges of their work alone. Computer-mediated communication could potentially reduce the isolation of HCWs and allow them to access some forms of support. In this research, we were particularly concerned with peer support, that is, the social and cultural capital shared between people in the same position. Because technology could be used to connect HCWs with each other and foster peer relationships, our research asked what forms of peer support, peer interactions would be most supportive to HCWs, and how might technology be designed to encourage and foster this support. To structure our investigation, we used communities of practice theory as a framework. This theory describes communities based on similar jobs or practices, and here we use it to outline and explore different aspects of peer support. For example, peers can help mobilize to resolve the gap between institutional demands and the realities of work. Peers can help maintain a collective memory of shared knowledge, values, and ideas, and can directly support each other via apprenticeship or mentorship, which can help shape tacit skills and transfer values and norms around being a practitioner, and help shape the identity of newcomers. Peers can also use feedback to create and maintain standards of practice that improves each other's effectiveness. And finally, peers can influence the experience of work and how supportive the work environment is through encouragement, positive interactions, and helping to create a sense of belonging. To better understand which aspects of peer support would be most valuable in our context, we conducted a 6-week co-design study with 18 HCWs. In the first week, we began with a needs finding and brainstorming session to more broadly explore the concept of peer support and help us draw out different aspects to focus on during the intermediate weeks. Participants were encouraged to attend as many weeks as possible, and in the final session in week 6 was devoted to asking participants to compare across the different past weeks, rank their support needs, and describe their own peer networks. During the bulk of the study, in weeks 2 to 4, we held deeper discussions on particular aspects of peer support using an illustrative, scenario-based approach. These sessions started with a broad discussion around an aspect, and then a pre-recorded 2 to 3 minute skit was played, which described HCWs interacting with a hypothetical technology designed for the week's theme. Participants then discussed the reactions to the scenario or imagined alternative scenarios and technologies around the theme. For example, for the theme of emotional support, the scenario described an HCW using a social networking group as a safe space to vent about a frustrating client situation. Other scenarios used in the study included using a diary app to encourage reflective practice, a video conferencing-based mentorship program to resolve issues around interpreting policy, or advocating around collective needs using an electronic petition. All of the sessions were recorded and then transcribed for thematic analysis, and we found that participants particularly valued the mentorship aspects of peer support, as well as the ability for peers to help in the emotional labor of care work and contribute to contesting unfavorable perceptions around the home care profession. Here we describe some of our findings in more detail, as well as some of the discussion and design implications that we believe our findings have for creating technology-enabled peer support in the home care context. Some participants described being in mentorship programs sponsored by some of the larger agencies, and these represented one of the few opportunities for HCWs to really meet with and interact with peers. In such programs, mentors met regularly with mentees, often via phone call, though sometimes in person. And as described by participant 9 here, HCWs felt that mentors were more likely to provide relevant knowledge to newcomers by leveraging their past experiences in the field. Mentors also help newcomers through the essential aspects of home care work that might not be sufficiently covered in more formal training, such as advice for handling patients, or learning how to use specialized equipment, or timekeeping and reporting tools. Because of the role of mentorship for on-the-job training, designing peer support technology to expose high-quality tacit and tribal knowledge might make it easier for HCWs to perform their job and improve the quality of their practice. Such systems might include matching HCWs with mentors who have more relevant experience. For example, a worker might be working with a patient with heart disease for the first time, and connecting that HCW with a mentor with relevant experience might improve the quality of the support. Furthermore, many aspects of home care are relational and require a judgment specific to a context and situation. Because of this, aggregating the advice and opinions of multiple sources in the form of a distributed mentorship may be able to provide HCWs with a broader perspective on different options that they could apply to their situation and create a more useful answer than can be provided by a single mentor alone. Beyond the information needs of newcomers, we also found that peers can provide valuable assistance and advice for performing emotional labor. Like many care workers, HCWs were tasked with providing empathetic and professional care, even when faced with socially and emotionally challenging situations. Additionally, HCWs built deeper relationships with their patients than traditional clinicians and were often left emotionally vulnerable when a patient passed away. We found that HCWs relied on their peers to help them regulate their emotions in stressful situations by listening to each other vent and providing words of reassurance and empathy. As described by the quote here, peers could also provide a second opinion, advice, or share techniques for handling challenging interpersonal relationships. This concept of peer support as helping each other perform and share strategies for emotional labor is another area of potential design work for technology-enabled peer support in the home care context. For example, tools could be designed to enable the co-production of emotional labor. Instead of producing more traditional informational artifacts, workers might collaborate to produce a desired emotional state. Designing for interpersonal emotional regulation might mean, for example, affordances to demonstrate active listening in a computer-mediated conversation, or matching those who need emotional support with someone who can provide empathy and advice from relevant experience. Finally, we found that participants believed an important aspect of peer support was to help frame the profession in a way to contest negative perceptions. Participants described their frustration with the fact that instead of being perceived as medical workers, they were instead treated as housekeepers and domestic servants. Because the role of the home care profession was often misrepresented, participants felt that HCWs should support each other by helping to strategically frame the profession as skilled and medical in nature. This meant two things. First, by helping to set consistent norms and expectations on practice with patients and patients' families, as described by participant 1, but also by encouraging knowledge growth and building a common repertoire of specialized expertise and skills. Peers could help contest the perception of home care as unskilled or non-medical. As a contested site around the scope and role of workers, peer support technologies in this context would benefit from related work on invisibilized labor. For example, HCWs often work with multiple agencies to string together enough hours to receive full-time benefits, but have little visibility into how supportive different agencies are to their needs. Creating forums or networks for workers to discuss issues and grievances might help address some of the information asymmetries in home care. Beyond peer support, technologies designed for home care can have impacts on worker professionalization. Technologies should support home care workers' efforts by acknowledging and respecting their expertise and skills, and avoid de-skilling HCWs by moving expertise to automated or algorithmic systems. Finally, while many agencies have started using electronic monitoring to record workers' care tasks and visits, instead of simply surveilling HCWs, such systems might be designed to raise visibility on the challenges and overlooked labor that is conducted in patients' homes. In summary, we explored the question of what forms of peer support are most valuable among HCWs, and how can we design technology to enable peer support in a context with physically distributed workers who have few opportunities to build peer relationships in person. To accomplish this, we embarked on a 6-week co-design with HCWs using scenarios around different types of technology, enabling different aspects of support. We described 3 of our findings around mentorship, emotional labor, and supporting the politics of professionalization, as well as some of the design implications that we drew from these findings. For further findings and discussion, I encourage you to read our full paper, which you can see cited here. And I also want to thank our funders and partners for making this work possible, especially the home care workers who participated in the study. And I want to thank you for your interest and time.